Hey, I'm Alex Backlund from Board Game Co.
I'm Professor Meg.
And today we are reviewing Tend from IV Studios. This is a prototype, all rules and components subject to change, and I'll have a link to the crowdfunding campaign down below. Now, Tend is a very, very intricate roll and write experience. It's not really a roll and write. I keep saying roll and write, but there's very little rolling going on in the game.
It's a flip and write?
It's a flip and write. There is a point where you roll dice, and there's a lot of dice you don't actually roll. So I think roll and write, there's like literally a box full of dice over here. I'm going to show you over here.
I'm going to say flip and write because flip and write is a mechanic.
Flip and write is a mechanic. No, it's definitely a flip and write.
Yeah.
I just want to show them like all these dice here and why I keep wanting to call it a roll and write, because there's lots of dice, even though you don't actually roll those dice. You do roll some dice. We'll talk about that soon. I'm going to go ahead and try to give a general overview of how this game plays. I'm going to focus on the general overview because if I try to go every little detail, there's a lot of small little things to cover. But the general idea is you're going to be playing, oh, and I should note, specifically with this prototype, there are some things that have already changed since there's already things that have already changed in the game. And again, prototype things might continue to change. So some small things are off. I may try to touch upon them. I may not focus heavily on them. I guess I'll give you some ideas. Some initial overlays on this board have changed on these pads. The season structure over here has changed. It's now 5-4-3 instead of 4-4-4. So there are some small things like that. I'm not going to try to like bog this down by calling out everything that's different. Understand some things have already changed. I've actually got a chance to play it in its updated version so far. Anyways, a quick overview.
Did you say link down below?
I did. Like 4 times probably.
I didn't.
Link down below.
I think I was moving the box.
Yeah. Anyways, how does the game play? General overview over here. You're going to be playing Tend across 12 rounds of play, tracked over here, and you're going to be going through different seasons, seasons 1, 2, and 3. Now, what you're going to be doing every single round is you're going to have a row of action cards. You're going to start off with the starter action cards that give you very basic actions, and we'll cover what those actions are, but before we do, as you go through the game, you're going to see the upcoming actions. So we know that these two actions, these are Season 1 cards, will be added to the pool shortly. So you kind of have a little deck building going on, but it's not you doing the deck building, it's the game doing the deck building. So you're going to see the upcoming action cards from Season 1. These are going to be slightly better cards. So for example, we have chopping as an action, but here we have chopping, but also if you have 3 chopping levels in the game, which granted you don't know what that means, but if you have a certain thing, you get to do something else. And that's going to continue for these action cards. You see, we have this giant deck of action cards over here because you only use a small section of the action cards available to you in the game. These are going to give you all these little action cards. Again, you have a giant mix of them going through. You're getting progressively letting you do more and more things. So now we're doing full-on double actions. We get to level 3, you get to do these giant double actions, you get extra bonuses, lots of things happening, all requiring you to have certain things that you've already achieved. So the kind of structure you have is you have 5 action cards. Next round, we're going to add these 2 action cards to the discard, then shuffle up as necessary, continuing to put them out. So what happens is these 2 action cards we know are going to be in play next round, but then after that, they're going to continue to cycle in. So even in the later rounds of the game, you might see some of the ones that continue to filter through. You look like you're about seasoning?
I was going to demonstrate. So just like, for example, all of these would clear, go to the discard.
These 2 new ones come out.
Over, because I think that just makes it make a lot of sense. And then this will now fill. So once this is empty, this will shuffle through and, you know, you'll have the same sequence.
And we're going to see the new upcoming action cards. And that means that you kind of have a escalating degree that the game operates, an escalating degree of the things you can get, especially if you're mindful of the various bonuses. You're like, oh, well, I want 3 chopping levels. Oh, but now I want river fishing unlocked. I want 2 mining levels, because again, these will filter back in. Even if you can't do them right now, in later rounds, you will be rewarded for having done those things. So that's kind of the general action system. You're going to repeat that across 12 rounds. Now, the actions you're taking are all about, well, tend. You're going to be tending your fields. You're going to be harvesting crops. You're going to be gathering animals into your zones over here. You're going to be going fishing and mining and all these various things. There's a lot of things you're doing, but they mostly come down to the 5 core actions, which the only tricky part is I specifically made sure those 5 core actions were in play. So we're going to go back to those 5 core actions. That's okay. The 5 core actions are going to be mining, chopping, tending, fishing, and I guess technically this is not really a core action so much as getting some form of resource, which you will have throughout the game. So going through over here, right now, the money over here. When you get this card, you'll get 2 money. Now there's a lot of things you can do with money, but generally it's going to be used towards various upgrades in the game. You can use it to buy animals, you can use it to get equipment upgrades. Money can go towards a lot of things, and you'll check off whatever it is you're doing. You have your own section over here. Both of these sheets are going to be a player, just so you understand this player section over here. All of this is going to be a single player, and this is the common board that you have for everyone. And so right now you can use the money for all these over here, for these projects or programs and all these other stuff you can put money towards, scratching off the necessary boxes needed. You can say, oh look, I have 2 money over here. I'm going to take that as one of my 2 action cards. Every round you take 2 of the available action cards, and everyone can take the same or different cards. So I say, you know what, I want to start working towards a upgraded 10 tool. I'm going to take that 2 money. I'm going to cross these off. I've paid 2 money towards my upgrading 10 tools over here. From there, you have the 4 main actions, the 4 core actions in the game. Mining and shopping are going to be very similar, and they're going to involve this little side scratch-off board over here. Yes, this is a scratch-off card. Yes, you will have giant packs full of scratch-off cards that you have in your box over here. So we have like all these scratch-off cards, and yes, they are different. I don't know how different they are, but they certainly are different. We've tried, we've tested. You don't know what you're getting as you dive into these scratch-off cards.
But also,
yes,
there is a
app. There's an app. There's a website. There's a good call out because it's relevant later. I have not tried it.
Oh,
no, I've not.
Sorry.
I don't know if it's up yet. I don't believe it's up yet.
I see.
There is, if you don't want to do scratch off cards, there is a app where you can go online and play this little mini game online to scratch things off. But what you're doing effectively is you're going to take your little coin and you say, look, I'm taking a mining action. And you go to the mining section that's down here and you scratch off, you pick off any one box from the top row because you're working your way down to the bottom. Now there is a path on each row, and the paths are good because they're likely to give you an action back. So effectively you spend an action and you might get something on the path. Maybe you get wood or stone or whatever, but you also might get another mining action which helps you continue. Thematically speaking, the paths are easier to move, letting you go further on the path. So let's actually scratch off the path and see what we got. Look at that. We got another mining action right over here.
And it's very tiny, but it is this symbol.
Yes. Right? Oh, actually, that's the shopping mining. Yep. So we're going to take that mining action and we'll use it. And we could go off to another spot over here, but we're going to continue going on the path, see what we got. And look at that. We got a stone over here, a little pebble. We can use it for a variety of things. One of the core things you're going to be doing as you play Tend is you're trying to fill your cargo manifest. That's going to be a big source of points. So for right now, for example, I might take that pebble, look at my little corporate commissary over here, which tells me the breakdown, and I see that the pebble is worth 1 mining resource. Now the good news over here, and I could cash it in for $1, I could use it towards any of the things that need a pebble. I could build some fences in my yard, or I could sit there and say, you know what, I actually want to go ahead and get mining resources, because in my cargo manifest, and this is getting a little ahead of ourselves, but in this particular section, I actually get extra points for having mining resources in the middle section. So I'm going to take a stamp, and you may not be able to see this because yellow actually shows up the least over here, but I stamp a little mining axe symbol over here, and I filled up a little 2-pointer in my cargo manifest.
So actually, Alex, just a quick note, these markers are double-sided, and the color is the only thing that really matters for this. So even if you just wanted to, for simplicity's sake, but especially for the camera's sake, you can also use the other side and completely color in the box if you wanted to.
Again, yellow still will be the hardest to see in general.
Yeah,
but that said, that's the kind of structure of the mining action. You're going through your pathway over here, you're using a scratch off, you'll get resources, sometimes you get actions back, or you continue going further down. As you get to the second half over here, it actually starts costing 2 mining resources to go each level, and then you get to the bottom over here, you'll unlock grotto fishing, which will help you when you take a fishing action, but you have to get to the bottom to do that. The woods is going to be very similar. A chopping action is the exact same structure, but it's in the wood section. When you get to the bottom, you unlock lake fishing instead, giving you different options of where to fish, and you get different resources as you go further down. Past that, they are structurally identical as far as the actions go. So we covered 2 of the actions. You understand most of the game. That's not true. You understand a decent amount of the game. From there, we're going to get to fishing because we just talked about fishing. Fishing over here is going to allow you to, well, fish. You're going to start off with pond fishing. Meg, do you want to go ahead and say you're taking a fishing action?
I want to take a fishing action.
Beautiful. Meg's taking a fishing action. She's going to roll a 1-2 over here. That's going to be a 1 over here and a 2 over here. Meg's going to get that resource over here. Now again, you could look at your cargo commissary over here and say, look, that's a 1 fish over here. Let's go ahead and put that into our little cargo manifest because in some way, that will help us get points towards the end of the game. Every resource you put is going to be worth a point, sometimes it's worth 2 points, and sometimes specific sections of your manifest don't want certain things and it'll be worth 0 points. But we're good with the fishing over here, so we can go ahead and put it there. Or alternatively, again, you can use it towards different things. One of the things in the game you'll constantly have is you're going to have little neighbors bonuses where you can fulfill certain bonuses, pass them to your neighbors, and getting rewards for that, a little bit of endgame points depending on how that goes, as well as checking off these boxes over here to get rewards on there. So again, lots of things you can do with all the stuff you're getting, but that's the structure of fishing. Now where fishing gets a little bit more intricate is there are different ways to unlock 3 different river sections. We've already talked about lake and grotto. That's going to come from unlocking from getting to the bottom of the woods or the bottom of the mines, and then you could choose when you take a fishing action, you could say, hey, instead, Meg, do you want to go ahead and go lake fishing?
And you choose ahead of time, you declare where you're going to fish, and then you fish.
Now, Meg just did lake fishing. She got a 4-2, and that she got that fish. Now, again, looking at this chart, that fish is a 2 fish section. So she can either cash it in for 2 money, or she could treat it as a better fish, putting more boxes over there. You can see the benefit of unlocking better regions gives you better fishing options. And then over here, there's river fishing. When you mark off various boxes over here, again, you'd need 2 wood, 2 coins, and then those 2 mining resources. You can unlock river fishing, giving you a third option for where to go fishing, in addition to the starting region. Again, all different reasons to go to different spots, but that's basically the fishing action. Which brings us to the tend action. The tend action is going to be one of the core actions in the game. It's going to be, well, they're all the core actions in the game. It's going to be involving your starting area over here, which again...
It's
the titular action. It is the titular action. But over here, you're going to have your starting region, and you're going to have starting with some fences, as well as some tending fields. Again, some of the structure overlay over here has already changed since playing through this, but again, the core idea of this is the same. When you're tending, there's a few things you can do, but you can go ahead and actually plant crops, or you could water a crop and adjacent crops, or you could plow, putting out more areas. So plowing is often very essential to be able to grow your fields. When you plow, you say, I'm taking a tend action, and I'm going to go ahead and mark off, and currently it's 6. Again, these are prototype changes. So I'm going to mark off 6 boxes over here, and then build out spots that I can start building resources. So I've now built, I've been tending these fields, plowing the fields, and now I could put resources on them. Now that I have a 3x3 section, I could say, hey, look at that. I want to go ahead and tend a crop over here, and that's going to be a 4x4. You want to pass me a 3x3? So a 3x3 over here. I'm going to put this crop. Well, I didn't build enough of the pumpkin.
I didn't look.
For another tend action, I can go ahead and put this out over here, and then every round this will slowly tilt up until eventually it harvests, and then it goes off, and I can now put it back in. Again, you can check over here and see that's going to allow me, this resource is going to allow me 3 coins or 3 green spots in my cargo manifest, which is ultimately the core point. You're ultimately trying to fill your cargo manifest. Everything else is just steps you're doing along the way to try to find those points for you. So tending, a core aspect of the game, is going to be putting various crops into your field, and the last tend action is going to be planting a crop, and adjacent, where effectively these will always rotate up at the end of each round, just automatically, but you can take an action to plant an area, tilting up a crop and all the surrounding touching crops as well. The other thing you can do in this section over here is various animals. Animals are going to cost you coins to get the initial animal, but once you do so, you can put the animal in there, although you will need to have actually built the fences around those animals. There's a lot of things you can do to get fences. Coins will get you fences, wood will get you fences, lots of stuff will get you fences options. We're going to go ahead and pretend that we've actually paid for those fences in one way or another, and now that we have a fully enclosed area, we can put this animal in here, and every round it will tilt up, and it will eventually give us eggs. Now the nice thing about animals is animals never go away once you buy them. They keep repeating the cycle of giving you more back. So you're going to get things, again, depending on the animal, depending on the size of it, there's different rewards for it. This egg over here, when we get it, we can go ahead and use it for our neighbor bonus. So animals and crops are trying to go into your central region over here. That's kind of the core structure of the main actions. There's a few more things I want to cover before we get to our thoughts. I know there's a lot. Thanks for bearing with me over here.
I think this is a good time to cover just that the upgrades kind of make all of these actions better.
That's what I was going to do. You want to cover the upgrades?
So, sure. So, for both the mining and the chopping ones, that's how you get to go lower into these specific areas. So, on the left side of the sheet, you can see you can do the first 4 rows, and then to do the last 4 rows, you need to upgrade your different tools. And another quick thing is, I don't think Alex said this, the things on the sides kind of show you what you can predict to get from those areas. So, if you're looking for a certain resource, that's how you kind of know what to expect. For the fishing upgrades, you can upgrade your rod to catch any better area. So either within a cross area or within a 3x3 grid. So this one is a lot better, but you have to work yourself up there. Well, you actually don't, but anyway. That's what the fishing upgrade would do, but you can also do lures, and the lures will allow you to catch additional fish. So not only can you make your fishing rod better, but you can catch additional fish when you're doing that as well. Now, Alex, I'll have you explain the tend upgrade.
Well, the tend one's just going to give you a double tend action. Similar to the upgraded hatchet and pickaxe, you're basically getting an extra action. You're doubling up the action, which is a big deal. So the faster you can get it, the better. But in everything in this game, the faster you can get it, the better. So pick your poison wisely. And the last thing to cover over here, again, last is with a loose term. I'm covering most of the stuff over here. Lastly, over here, we're going to have these over here. Each of these is going to give you a bonus at the end of Season 1, 2, and 3, ways to earn extra points. And just like the action cards, there's a chalk ton of them, so giving you a ton of variety for the various bonuses you can have. And then I'm not going to heavily go into the sheet because I think it'll bog you down a little bit. But loosely, I'll say there's some ways of getting extra things from these programs over here. And then over here, the projects over here. And then down here, you have ways of earning medals. The benefit over here is this often gives you a way to cash in certain things. So remember I was talking about the fish and you could sell it for money or put it directly directly into your manifest. You can also use them towards various metals that want, like this metal over here, this wood badge. As you get wood, you can go ahead and cash it in for a metal, and that metal can go into your cargo manifest instead, where it'll usually be worth more to you, usually, not always, and then also giving you points at the end of the game. So metals and going for those can be another way of, hey, you're doing these things, you're getting this stuff, you're the best woodsman ever, and we're going to recognize you for it and give you points. That's kind of the core idea of Tend. You're going to be using 5 core things. 4 of them actions, the other one's more just resources, which you have mining, you have chopping, you have fishing, and you have tending your crops, and then you have animals. Those are going to be the 5 pillars of how you build things out. Everything else is going to come down to the action efficiency and how well you can build your engine in order to score points as you play through Tend. And with that, do you want to talk about our review?
Absolutely.
Okay, so as usual, we're going to have our timestamps down below to what we like, what we don't like, but let's go ahead and start off with what do you like about Tend?
Well, I am going to take the first point, which I think everyone is thinking, which I think is obviously a given, is that this game is beautiful. It is so aesthetic. It's very pleasing to play with. Everything from down to this sheet particularly is just so nice to work with, and I think the scratch off sheets are really, really well designed. I have played a lot of the fishing strategies because I just love that in these types of games, and I just think all the fish are really, really cute. And then on top of that, I love this playmat. So just straight out the gate, it is beautiful, and this is all prototype components, but everything has been so nice. So,
we haven't even talked about the...
Just saying, it is as nice as it looks.
We haven't even talked about the colored, customized stamp markers for every single thing,
Yeah.
the inevitable scratch-off cards, the tons of dice that are going to be completely different every single thing. There's a lot going on as far as the general production over here.
And I guess to also further that point, which I do bring this up sometimes, not only is it beautiful, but it's also very intuitive with all of the iconography. So it is very busy. There's a lot going on. There's so much information. This sheet just shows you just how many different icons there are. And it is a lot of information, but that being said, it's always very clear exactly what's intended because everything is very intended. Because it's all very distinct. Even from these scoring cards showing how clearly stamped the stamps are, it does all, I guess, synergize very well, I think, because they chose to do so much with the components.
I'm going to focus for my first point about just the sheer degree of variability here, because there's a ton. The amount of goals you have for the rounds, that's going to give you a totally different thing to go for. A little extra adjustments to what you're doing, what you're going for, how you're scoring extra points, because you're going to score big chunks of extra points at the end of every season for those. You're also going to get a ton of variety of these action cards. Again, these are going to get different things that you have to focus on. Hey, look at that. If I want to get extra stuff over here, I have to have 2 completed columns in my cargo manifest. I have to focus on that. Alternatively, if this card came out, then I'd have to focus on having a trellis and 3 mining levels. A trellis is something that's going to help you with certain crops, but then I can get extra mining action. And if I also double up on my mining tool, I can get a ton of things going on if you lean into the action cards, of which there's so much variability. And so just the general variability of the season cards and the action cards means this game has a core structure, but it's going to be so different every single time you play. And to that end, the pathways you can take over here, every time I play this, I've tried at this point every single one of the core pathways that you have in Tend, and every single thing gives you something else to try to focus on, because you're always going to want to have something you're doing a little more. Do you going a little bit more into fishing, a little bit more into mining? How far are you trying to lean into that one thing? Are you upgrading that tool? But then from there, there's so much stuff that you can do.
My next point was that it's choose your own adventure.
Do it. Carry on.
No, I didn't mean to actually interrupt.
You can carry on.
But no, I mean, you were killing it. That's my next point.
It's choose your own adventure. It very much is figure out a pathway and then figure out which things are going to lean into that. You're probably going to do a bit of everything. It is possible for you to play the game and never mine or never plant a single crop, but usually you're going to have a little sparkle of everything because you can't always guarantee which cards come out. So having a little flexibility to direct resources anywhere is good, but you will have the thing that you're really good at and the thing that you're tangentially leaning into, and that gives you a lot of pathways to play.
Now, this isn't like a full point. This is like side discussion.
Half a point.
Side discussion.
Yeah.
I have never tended.
You've never tended in the game?
No, because, and we'll get into this later when we talk about recommendations, but in games like this, I love fishing, and fishing never requires farming.
It's interesting you say that, because in this game, I have always been drawn to fishing.
I love fishing. I love fishing in most games.
My first game, I went full fishing, and in every single game since then, I've had to convince myself not to go full fishing. For whatever reason, it is my instinct to.
Yeah.
But I like to try different things.
In this game, like, just to kind of show you the pathway to different strategies, if you decide to go full fishing, one of the things that you need to do is work your way down on this sheet to unlock the different fishing areas. So you want to unlock the lake and the grotto. And in order to do that, you can upgrade one of your tools to be able to get down one of them, and staying on the path definitely helps you get those additional actions. But eating these energy bars is a way for you to do things at a higher level, so that's kind of a way for you to get that as well. But yeah, you kind of never have to touch tending.
Yeah, the thing I've leaned into the least personally is not whatever, like you mentioned tending, I've leaned the least into trying these metals. I usually find that for whatever reason, I just spend the least time focusing on the metals. I think there's always things I'm trying to do with my stuff, and so by the time I get to the metals, I'm like, we're halfway through the game, I'm not going to finish these metals, and then I get in my head about whether it's worth it. So I've done them, but that's the area I've explored the least easily.
Well, I think that kind of leads to another point that I really enjoy, is that I'm someone that when there's a game that has like either scoring that you're trying to take away from someone or final scoring at the end of rounds, things like that, I love going for like those goal type things. And these different season ending cards, I think that tied in with these different badges, it is kind of a choice of what do I do, because these will help you with scoring at the end of each of the seasons and you want to fill in your cargo, but those items might also just be when you want to put into here. So I did find putting items into here was helpful, because then you can use these metals and put the metals into your manifest.
Yeah. Now, one thing I will say for me is that another thing I appreciate about the game is I do find in games like this, sometimes there's a degree of you have to check off certain boxes of doing certain things to play the game. So, like, sure, you're going in different directions, but you have to get X amount of certain infrastructure in play. I don't find that's the case in this game. From the get-go, you run straight into it, and you're immediately doing the things, and you can't always, even the things like, hey, you kind of want to upgrade something, because I guarantee you want to upgrade at least one of these tools, bless you. I guarantee you want to upgrade at least one of these tools as you play through it, but even then, it takes so much time to gather the resources that even from the get-go, you're already leaning into your pathway, whatever it might be, and then sure, you'll get to a point where you upgraded a tool, and now you're doubly leaning down that road. But you are, from the get-go, you're just starting to do something that is a decent chance is already different than the structure and approach everyone else is taking around the table. And so it really lets you choose an adventure, it lets you do it from the get-go, it doesn't force you to spend time doing like, hey, collect this number of basic things in order to even start playing. And so I overall appreciate that about the game.
I was going to say that as well, is that just that I really enjoyed the upgrade system. I know we talked about it a bit, but I think that for a game that starts off with like everything a little bit accessible and then you have to build your way out, I really enjoyed the upgrade system.
Yeah.
But I think that's because I went specifically that way and went there from the beginning.
Which is part of why I
really like the things it provides, especially all the different fishing tools.
Yeah, part of why I am drawn to fishing is for each of the other resources you have one upgrade, and for fishing you're like, ooh, I can get a lure, and I can get the promised dream of fishing, which when you do it, and you can do it, it's usually going to be towards the end of the game, but you get to a point where you're like, I am getting in a 3x3 grid and I'm catching 3 fish. Look at me go. It feels so cool, so satisfying. It does take a little longer to get there, but the payoff is a very, very fun feeling.
Now, Alex, in the rules, did you say that you can't put like colors touching each other?
I did not cover that, yes.
So that's very important for something like fishing, because if you're going into a strategy where you are getting a bunch of fish and trying to put them into your manifest, you can only put different colors next to each other. You can see here on these season cards, actually, it's very clearly shown how they're put next to each other. So if you do go for a lot of fish, that's the only thing that's a little bit tricky. But the thing that I found that was so fun is that I did the one that can get you the geodes, and then you go mining, and then you have yellow and blue, and you can splice them together.
Yeah, when you eventually unlock your first geode, which will happen down over here, you'll flip over this geo card, and now whenever you explore geodes, you'll go ahead and once again roll dice and get whatever cool bonuses in the geode. So again, lots of stuff to explore over here. Anything else you want to cover in the things you like?
I believe that is it.
As far as things you don't like, I'll go ahead and start off over here with a pedantic one that is one that bothers me a little bit, is I do not like scratch-off cards. I do not like scratch-off cards in any game. Usually they show up in legacy games, and what I usually do in a legacy game is I grab the scratch-off card with all the contamination property that has glitter, and I wander over to the sink, and I go, we've unlocked this for the next scenario. That's how I usually handle scratch-off cards. This has it baked into the game.
Yeah.
And it is true, and I'm glad you said it, because it was worth remembering, that there is an app you can use, but I also don't like apps. And so I'm not saying I don't like games that have scratch-offs or apps. I do, but I don't like either of those things, and that is an essential component to playing through Attend. I either have to deal with scratch-off and the glitter. This is a game I'll happily play at other people's houses, not mine. Or
you could play hard mode and never take a chopping or mining action.
Which would be against the exact strategic advice that I gave of being flexible to what the game throws at you. But yeah, I don't like scratch-off cards, and I don't like apps. I find both of those things take me out of the gameplay. Well, one of those things I find irritating from a practical aspect, and the other one takes me a little bit away from the table, and so that's a core component of the game, and it's something that I don't enjoy.
Yeah, I think for me, the first thing is that I play a lot of roll and writes, and I also enjoy a lot of games that are similar to this, and where it does make sense to me. I'm going to say it makes sense, but then it doesn't make sense. For me, I understand all of the rules, but I've never felt from start to finish. I think I've enjoyed every single time I've played and enjoyed the journey of getting to the end. But then at the end, I'm kind of like, oh, that's all I did. Like, I'm not sure if I felt like I did. I'm not sure I interacted with the game the way I felt I should. And I guess I have really leaned into a particular strategy a couple times now, and only explored other things a little bit. But for me, I haven't yet had that moment where it makes sense to me yet.
So the tricky part is my feedback's going to be similar in terms of my first complaint was very, very specific. My second complaint is vague-ish.
Right, I don't know how to explain this, but I'm not sure if I felt fulfilled at the end.
So that's a key thing. For me, the way I'll put it is I don't usually feel fulfilled at the end of it. I feel that for me, Tend is an experience in which I keep wanting to explore stuff, and again, I've played this game several different times, several different groups. This is a game that whenever I'm playing through it, I have the starting off desire to upgrade and build things out. By the time we get into halfway through the game, I'm like, I haven't really felt like I did anything. And the game does escalate. It gives you more stuff. So you will do more in the second half than the first half. Mm-hmm. But every time I play it, I feel pulled in a lot of directions. And then I get to the end and I'm like, I did stuff. Right. The fulfilling thing, the lack of feeling completely fulfilled at the end of the experience is the thing that I am missing here when I play through this. I'm constantly going through it, and I'm like, there's so much stuff to do. There's so many different directions. There's no clear pathway. The game gives you a lot of stuff that fills that dopamine hit. So if I get this, I unlock that, I go ahead and I check this, I just gave a gift to a friend, I'm going to take this, I'm going to turn that into a medal, I'm going to put that medal into my manifest. All those things are great. But mm-hmm. I never feel like I fully developed the things I wanted to develop, and that I never got to that sense of, I did the things that I always have that I get to the end and I'm like, I did stuff. Mm-hmm. Maybe I'll try differently next time. Like, I want to see if I try slightly differently, maybe there'll be a more rewarding feeling at the end of it. And I do feel there's so many ways you can explore this. That's the thing about the game. There's so many different pathways and ways you can explore this that maybe I just haven't hit upon that way. But I have tried all the core paths with various offshoots, and I keep feeling shy of getting there. And that's not necessarily it's hard to be a critique. It's like you said, it's hard to be like a real critique because it ultimately comes down to the feeling. The feeling Tend gives me is I keep wanting to play it again, hoping it will pay off with the feeling that I haven't yet gotten from this. Mm-hmm.
And I think, so my next point might help us pin that down a little bit. But to get a little bit more specific, these cards here, as you get through the different seasons, at the beginning, it asks less of you, so it's achievable, but it's also early in the game, so you're able to work toward those and plan for it, and those cards will come back out. As you get later in the seasons, not only are they a lot harder to achieve, but they also come out more rarely. So even if you work toward one that's like have 8+ of something, you might only see it one more time. So you work really hard to have that 4 actions, but then you might not even actually have that card reward you.
Yep.
So I almost wish that the different season cards had like recommended sets that synergize together. That way, like, it was multiple strategies, but either way you could kind of feel the synergy of, I did this in season 1 and now I'm seeing it come back in season 3. As opposed to just like something crazy in season 3 coming out that no one's been working toward, and then just being like, well, okay, no one, gets anything from that.
Yeah. Anything else to cover as far as complaints?
I think that my final thing is I really enjoyed all of the components and the production quality, but it is a lot of upkeep and it is a little bit fiddly. Like, even with the scratch offs and with the markers and things like that, you are doing a lot, and it's a long flippin' right. It's 12 rounds. So for 12 rounds that do last pretty decently long, especially when you have a lot of players thinking a lot about these different actions, you're kind of picking up and touching a lot of different things. But that being said, I wanted to say this in the general review part. It may seem like there's a lot going on, and it does have a bit of table presence, but because it's a flip and write and all of these are modular, you can put things anywhere, we just have this set up pretty for you, it's not that bad table space wise. So if anyone's concerned about that part, I think it's fine table space wise. And when you're going for specific actions such as like mining and chopping, you take that card out and you do it. So I would say that, at least.
I would say I think it's manageable for sure, but this is what you need for one player, which means as you get to a 4-player experience, you definitely need a table that can accommodate that. It's certainly manageable on an individual level. Like Meg said, it's very modular, but it can add up at higher player counts.
And if you have 2 players sitting next to each other, this can be...
Yeah, sure.
But
yeah, as far as final thoughts on Tend, I'll go ahead and go first with this one. Tend is an experience that I feel I still am shy of seeing where this game can go. And again, I've tried every single strategy. I've played it with a variety of people. I made sure to play it with, with Ivy Studios as well, to give it a shot. And it's an experience that, well, I guess to cut to the chase on this one, I was debating coming in at a 3 out of 5. And I am coming in at a 3.5 out of 5 because I do find that there's still an element where I still feel like I want to keep exploring. But to be very clear, it's not that I yet enjoy it enough. It's that I'm like, what if I try this and I get this upgrade? Maybe I'll be able to go ahead and get that mining upgrade and a fishing upgrade with a lure, and maybe that combination will get to the point where I feel like I really did enough out of it. As of right now, every time I play it, I have a good enough time. It's a fun enough experience, but I do always feel that the first half of the game is already over and I feel I've got nothing done. And then the second half, I feel like I get a lot more done, but it just never hits that totally fulfilling crunch for me, at least not yet. So I am coming in at a 3.5 out of 5, but to be very clear, it's getting that half point because I still feel like maybe I'm just not good enough at it yet. I don't know. Maybe that's what it is. I don't know what's happening.
I'm annoyed that you went first because literally I feel the same way, that I feel like I haven't figured it out. That's how I would say it. I just feel like I haven't figured it out and I want to. And I feel like once I figure it out, it'll be even more fun and be exactly what I expect it and want it to be. But my brain is not clicking with how all the different actions synergize. So for me, I'm also giving it a 3.5. I really enjoyed the fishing. I think for this, it is a game that when you lean into the aspects that you like, you're having a really fun time in the moment and you enjoy the journey. You can really enjoy the journey and enjoy all the things you're doing, but it's kind of that thing where it's like, all of a sudden we're here and we're getting out of the car and you're like, wait, what? I haven't finished doing the things I was going to do yet. So yeah. Yeah.
And that is Tend. As far as other game recommendations, for me, I'm actually going to go with Twilight Inscription for this. If you've played Twilight Inscription, that's going to be the roll and write version of Twilight Imperium. That's going to give you 4 giant boards to go with in different directions, a whole lot of ways to try to figure out your own roll and write pathway, and a game that it's a good game. You should check it out.
And my recommendation is a game that would give you a lot of similar actions, but a very different feel with a co-op board, which is Stardew Valley, the board game. This is very similar, but it is very, very different, especially being co-op versus competitive. And with the board game, it does give you it gives you similar actions, like I said, where you're mining, you're fishing, you're farming, but everything else is very different. So if you like the theme, it definitely has a similar feel.
In any case, until next time, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co.
I'm Professor Mike.
And have a good one.
Bye.